I've been directed by Amy twice.
Yes.
And I've loved both
Oh,
times.
thank you.
And the second time there was a baby involved.
Yes. He was about 3 months old.
I don't know how you did that rehearsal process.
Yeah, it was quite a challenge.
Now
Boobs out in the rehearsal room.
Boobs out, ladies and
And
gents.
that wasn't just breastfeeding, that was just for fun.
It's just
Anyway, yes.
shocking behaviour. You're bringing Carry On back.
Yes, exactly.
You've been involved in a thing called the Side Hustle project
Hustle
on the Guardian website, ladies and gents. Check it out.
Yes.
Tell us all about that.
So that was a piece with about having two lives really running simultaneously. So working your 9 to 5 type job to pay the bills, to actually be able to live in London, which is near impossible anyway, and then working all hours to do your passion project. So they had different people that were featured. They had 2 guys that were making gin. They had lots of different industries featured. I think there were 5 or 6 of us. And they followed me around and did little short 3 or 4 minute films about Doll's Eye and about what we were doing. And yeah, it was really fun. And actually, again, another important talk to people thing, in the sense that you have to work other jobs. You have to work other jobs, and I think again there's a weird, and I felt it as an actor, a weird pressure. So I acted for 8 years before I went into directing. There's a pressure that you have to be. What have you been up to at the moment? That you have to say, oh well, I was in a short film, or oh well, I've been to lots of castings. And actually, I really like it when an actor comes in and I'm directing something. You say, what have you been up to? And they say, working in a cafe. Or I haven't been working, but I'm really enjoying watching. I went to see an amazing play the other day, or whatever it might be, because the reality of it is we feel like we have to pretend we're bigger than the industry kind of allows us to be.
There's a lot of hot air.
Yeah, there is. There's a lot of hot air. And
Coming out of bums.
Yes. And I think it takes quite a bravery to go, yeah, I haven't worked for a year.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean you're a bad actor. And if there's any director that's worth their salt, they'll go, oh, that's tough, isn't it? Let's crack on, give us the audition.
Yeah, totally. I think it enriches a person anyway to do non-acting stuff.
Absolutely.
Because I think if you're acting, you are in a bubble. Especially if you're acting from an early age. What experience do you have of the real world, so to speak?
Exactly, yeah.
So that's interesting. And you went to New York in the final piece of this excellent series, and you spoke to a lady from Soho Rep.
Yes.
Who told you about energy and focus conservation.
Yeah.
And focus. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that was really helpful actually, in the sense that I think it's very easy when you have an exciting project on the go to think, right, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and I've got this script and I want to do that. And I think lovely Lisa Sperling, who is now artistic director of Theatre Bravo 3, gave me some advice when I was assisting her, and she said she spread herself a little too thinly when she started, and actually just to go, I'm just going to do this one thing and I'm going to do it really well, and I'll wait for the other things. And actually, in a way, having a baby makes you do that because you just haven't got time to do the other things. So at the moment, I'm focusing on one thing, and that's our education tour that we're doing of our piece about street harassment called Might Never Happen. And we're going to 12 schools in the UK as a kind of pilot, working with Durham University, who are funding that, which is very exciting. But that's my project for this year. And it's not to say I'm not going to look at getting experience and other bits and bobs, but that's the big one, and that's the one I'm focusing on. I'm going to do that really well, and then I'll see what's happening next year. But I think it's very easy to get flooded with excitement and with trying to do lots of things and maybe spread yourself a bit thinly.
Yes. Any tips for people about how to conserve that energy or
ask
avoid?
Advice on, get together, have a pint or a glass of wine with a friend and say, like, which of these 5 things do you think is a
worthy of my time?
Yeah, exactly. And actually, another great piece of advice I had from lovely Lily LaPenna, who is the CEO of the charity, which is my other job that I was doing at the time, Charity My Bank, where I worked, is that she is brilliant at spreading her network, and she actually asks people for a coffee and says, "I'll buy you. I'd love to see you. Let's go for a coffee. Let's have a chat." And just by starting to talk to people and putting feelers out there, and people are much more responsive to that than you think. I think in theatre, again, people are a bit scared of doing that, particularly actors, don't want to pick up the phone to a casting director, or don't want to call because we're sort of told we're not meant to do that. Yeah. And actually pick the phone up and give someone a call, and if they are not that keen or they're busy, then maybe they're not the person to work with, because if they make you feel bad, then...
Yeah, no, of course, that and that's part of the process, isn't it? Gauging whether there's somebody you're capable of working with.
Yeah.
I think it strikes me that time really is the sort of the ultimate currency, and whatever you give your time to is basically what you've chosen, whether you are aware of it or not.
Exactly.
And so it sounds like you're on that path now.
Yes. Yeah.
What are your hopes for the coming year?
So,
future?
As I was mentioning to you prior to us sitting in these chairs,
Yes.
I would like to try and move a little bit into television.
Explain.
So, I would like to get a bit of experience to see if I would like to move into directing in the TV field.
Yeah.
Dramas and telling some of those different sorts of stories we were talking about earlier. Excuse me. So partly that is to gain experience of a different medium. Partly that is because theatre doesn't pay anything on a really, really practical level, and also just to see if the skills that I hopefully have as a theatre director would translate, because a few people have said to me that would be a good position for me to move into, to work with actors on the more sort of detailed, smaller work. But I'm very naive when it comes to how things would work on set, so I need to try and get a little bit of experience with that. But then I need to get childcare. So it's about taking work that is potentially unpaid and how you finance that, and so it's a juggling act. Yeah, exactly. So just trying to dip a toe in and see how that goes.
I think that's that's valid. I mean, I've been doing exactly that really over the last sort of couple of years, moving away from theatre a little more, precisely for that reason, because it's just impractical to do work unpaid, largely, and hope that somebody will see it's working to get paid to work, and like you say, I think you can get bored of the same kind of material maybe, or the same kind of situation, the same kind of problems with theatre, especially at the moment. I feel like theatre or the arts in general, are quite neglected, and so I think it's really interesting what's going on in the United States in terms of the work that British actors can seek out there. There's more pay, there's more auditions, more work, more experience. It's more exciting in that sense because it's more creative. I know for ethnic minority actors there's a lot more opportunities in terms of the work, the quality of work and things like that.
So is that the route you're going down?
I am, yeah. I mean, I love theatre. It's a particular relationship you have with an audience that is very unique, and it's a very clear linear process. When you're acting on stage, you know that you're going to go on stage, the story happens, and then you go off stage. And
then you have a drink.
And then you have a drink.
Yeah.
Or meet some people in the bar, have a little soiree.
Yes.
But in TV, I've learned it's and it was a shock initially when I started, because it's stop and start. Your consciousness is so easily invaded by tech people arguing over and so that is a different discipline, and it's very interesting when you see major TV actors go back to theatre and they struggle, or vice versa. And I think there is a lot of opportunity in storytelling as well with film and TV, because you can do more with the medium. And storytelling can become quite exciting and magical in that sense. But it's one of those things where you're working on a visa to go over there. You're expending a lot of money sorting it all out. but I would suggest anyone go for it, because there is such a wealth of talent in the UK, and there's such a sincere commitment to art and storytelling, but the tools aren't there so much now. I do feel as though that there's a neglect. And that's why people are going abroad. I mean, if you look at a lot of TV series in the US now, there's vast amounts of British actors, and Idris Elba and all of these amazing.
But then in a way that is kind of sad, isn't it? Because we're saying jump ship, really, because the ship isn't holding water. Holding water? It's holding water. Sinking.
Yeah.
So
no.
Actually, that in a way, and I'm on sort of the same page. There is a sadness to that, because we don't feel supported, and so many people are saying, right, well, then I'm out. And,
I mean, that is the question, I think, and ultimately it comes down to who's got control of who owns the production, really, and I think a lot of the arts now reflect, like you say, particular middle class interests and things, and until such a time as artists can fund to a large degree popular work, I think sadly people will vote with their feet, because there's nothing much except for making independent small scale stuff that they can do. I mean, it's a really fascinating time in that sense of our generation, what we're doing. You mentioned in a WhatsApp to me, we do that, ladies and gents, not being dictated to by the powers that be. I suppose we've touched on that. Is there anything you want to add to that?
I think just if you've got a little voice in your head saying, I don't feel like good doing this job. I'm not suggesting jumping ship on that job, but just evaluating the people that you're working with. I remember my first ever agent said to me, find your players. And I just left around school and I didn't know what she meant. And I thought, I don't know what that means.
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Exactly, that's what she meant. No, but I feel like I have now found my players, and actually it's about finding the people that you work with well, that respect you, that you work in the same way, there's a work ethic. And actually, even if that person is the top director in the top theatre in the whole of the UK, if they don't make you feel good about yourself and about the work you're creating, then don't worry about it. And actually it might be better to do a piece in a church hall to all the friends of friends, and create a piece of theatre that you're so passionate about and that you love, and you have to work another job at the same time, but you're truly proud of what you've created, because if you let that fire die and you're just on the treadmill and trying to go up for the auditions and do the stuff that's going to look good on your CV, I think there can be a bit of a sadness that can come with that, and a loss of self. So I think it's just taking a moment to step back and say, right, the industry tells me I need to do this, I need to do this job, I can't go on holiday. If I go on holiday, I'm going to get an audition. If I get the audition, my agent will be cross with me. And actually, you probably need the holiday. Go on the holiday, go to somewhere awesome and have a lovely time, and don't worry about what if, I'm going to get in trouble if, maybe I'll get this job, maybe I won't, why haven't they called me, what's going to, actually, I'm talking to myself as well, because I do all of this. Sometimes you have to just step back and go, oh, I think I just need to breathe now, and I need to do something I'm really passionate about, and just step off the treadmill for a minute and take a break. And whether that's a break going into another industry for 6 months to see how you feel about that, whether it's a break and doing something different in theatre that you love, just breathing and trying to find some space.
If you weren't a theatre director, what do you think you would be?
I would probably work in women's mental health or sexual violence field, or I worked at Rape Crisis for a while, so probably that side of things, and particularly supporting women who've been through trauma, and I think that would probably be route I would go down, or potentially something therapy based.
Yeah.
Although I would probably, it depends on, maybe I'd get annoyed with the people I was trying to help. So I can imagine.
Settle down.
I can imagine it must be very frustrating being a therapist, because sometimes you probably just want to go, get a grip! But you can't do that. But then that's kind of partly directing as well.
Yes,
Sometimes you
it
want
is
to do
actually.
that, and you have to step back and go, but they don't need that right now. They don't need that. They need to get there themselves.
The importance of stories, I think, is a common thing.
Yeah.
You know, the stories we tell ourselves. I think it's not a surprise that so many people need therapy, whether they know it or not.
Yeah.
Because there's so many conflicted, so many self-contradictory stories that we tell ourselves.
Absolutely.
And they're not necessary.
No.
They might have been necessary at some point to protect ourselves from pain and trouble, but that fascinates me, because we fundamentally need stories that explain, that make sense, that bring us together, and I think that's very interesting, because it's very it's nurturing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That common thing.
Yeah, and I think allowing yourself to maybe try to challenge your version of yourself.
And it's very changeable though. It's very malleable.
Yeah, exactly.
What your version of yourself can be.
Yeah.
Now, where would you see yourself in 10 years' time, darling?
Hopefully with a lovely family. I already have my little bub, and maybe perhaps with another one. Sleep deprivation pending. And
she's had 2 hours, ladies and gents.
2 hours sleep. So yeah, I would say that will be home life wise. That would be a lovely place to be. Career life wise, directing a bit of television.
Lovely.
Directing a little bit of television, keeping the theatre company stuff going, maybe in theatre education side of things. And look, because a lot of our work is about gender, so working with young men and young women to try to help them overcome some of the stereotypes that we have about gender.
I think absolutely. I think that the self-identity of men is a real. It's so intertwined with
one of the next pieces
the issues. But it is that because it really affects the relationship with women.
Absolutely.
And there is such a crisis of masculinity, I think.
Yeah.
And you can see it in so much of the misogyny and so much of the anger. That's fascinating, and I'll be interested to see that production.
Yeah, I really, really want to look at that next, because we've done a lot of work with women, and I spoke to a lovely charity at the Women of the World Festival called the Great Men Initiative, and they're doing some wonderful work going into schools, young volunteer men talking to young boys about what it is to be a man.
That's great.
And they're doing some, it sounds like wonderful work. So those are the sorts of things that I think we need to start talking to boys. We really need to start talking to boys about what they're doing and the things they feel they have to do to behave in certain ways and patterns.
And role models.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so important to look at both, so, yeah.
That is fascinating. I am looking forward to that. Now, what's your Twitter handle, my darling?
My Twitter handle is at Amy Ewbank, and we're also at Doll's Eye Theatre, at Doll's Eye.
Check it out.
Check it out.
Doll's Eye Theatre. It's been a joy.
Yes,
it's been a joy.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure.
For the chat. It's been great.
Welcome to Houlihan Chats. And now goodbye.
Goodbye. Gonna go and get my baby.